Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos. I am the last, and I will tell the audient void. I do not remember clearly when it began. It was months ago. The world was already strained by upheaval, and over that strain, there came a stranger fear. People went about with pale and worried faces. They whispered warnings and prophecies which no one dared to repeat aloud. A sense of monstrous guilt lay upon the land. From the abysses between the stars, cold currents swept down and made men shiver in lonely places. Even the seasons seemed altered. The autumn heat lingered fearsomely. And then Nyarlathotep came out of Egypt. No one knew who he truly was. He was of the old native blood and looked like a pharaoh. The fellahin knelt when they saw him, but could not say why. He said he had risen from the blackness of 27 centuries and had heard messages from places not on this planet. He bought strange instruments of glass and metal, then combined them into instruments. Stranger still, where Nyarlathotep went, rest vanished. The small hours were torn open by the screams of nightmare. Even wise men almost wished they could forbid sleep, while the pale moon looked down on sickly cities. I remember when Nyarlathotep came to my city. The great city, the old city, the terrible city of unnumbered crimes. A friend told me of his revelations, and I burned to know their mysteries. My friend said the visions were horrible and more impressive than anything my fevered mind could imagine. What appeared on the darkened screen prophesied things which none but Nyarlathotep dared prophesy. It was in that hot autumn that I went through the night, with the restless crowds to see him. Through the stifling streets, up the endless stairs, and into the choking room where Nyarlathotep waited. On the screen, I saw hooded forms among ruins and yellow, evil faces peering from behind fallen monuments. Then I saw the world battling blackness, struggling around the dimming, cooling sun. Then the sparks played around our heads, hair rose on end. Shadows more grotesque than I can tell came out and crouched above us. I was colder, more scientific than the rest, and still I trembled. I muttered about imposture, about static electricity. Then Nyarlathotep drove us all out, down the dizzy stairs, into the damp, hot, deserted streets. There we shouted that we were not afraid. We swore to one another that the city was the same, and still alive, but the electric lights began to fade. Then we depended on the greenish moon, and drifted into strange formations, as if we already knew where we must go. We looked down at the pavement. The blocks were loose, and grass grew between them. The rusted lines of the tramways were almost gone. A tramcar stood alone, windowless, dilapidated, and nearly on its side. On the horizon, one tower was gone. Another stood ragged at the top. Then we split into narrow columns, each drawn in a different direction. One vanished into an alley. Another descended, a weed-choked subway, laughing madly. My own column was drawn toward the open country. The heat of autumn vanished. Around us lay the moon glitter of evil snows, trackless and inexplicable. Ahead, the snows were split apart, and between them opened a gulf blacker than its glittering walls. I lingered behind. The black rift was too frightful. I heard a wail as my companions vanished, but I had little power to remain, as if beckoned. By those already gone, I floated after them, quivering, afraid, into the sightless vortex. What followed, only the gods that were can tell. I was a sickened, sensitive shadow writhing in hands that were not hands, whirled past dead worlds whose soars were cities, past charnel winds that brushed the pallid stars. Beyond the worlds, I saw vague ghosts of monstrous things and half-seen columns of unsanctified temples resting on nameless rocks beneath space, yet reaching upward to dizzy vacua above light and darkness. And through that graveyard of the universe came the muffled beating of drums and the thin, monotonous whine of blasphemous flutes from chambers beyond time. There, the gigantic, mindless gods danced slowly, awkwardly, absurdly, and their soul was Nyarlathotep,